And this is Conscious Living Radio, although we're recording on Facebook Live first. Thanks for joining us. I'm excited today because we're going to be working with tarot, which is always so much fun, and oracles. Our guest, Selena Joy Lovett, she's created a new tarot deck, and it's called the Journey to Enlightenment Tarot. She's a psychic medium, a Reiki Master, mindfulness practitioner, and a life coach. Trained in Chinese medicine, NLP counseling, she works with tarot to guide seekers forward on a journey of enlightenment. Having trained with Lisa Williams, Tony Stockwell, and Carrie Standfast, both in psychic development and mediumship, she now teaches others how to work with tarot, both for themselves and to give other people readings. So welcome to the show, Selena.
Hi, it's a real pleasure to be here. Yeah, lovely.
I'm super excited. Bringing in some oracles is always fun.
Yeah.
And, most people do know about tarot and oracle cards, but let's assume some people don't. How about a little bit of history of where tarot came from, or oracles in general, because they've been around for so long?
They have been around for a lot. I don't know even when they first came in. In fact, I've had one of the very first, a really old-fashioned, the ancient tarot of Marseille, and these are sort of the original types where they were quite just very easy colored. I think they just used 3 or 4 different colors, and they were playing cards, but they were also then started to use for predictions and to tell stories. And the people were people coming into people's lives. The court cards were people that came in, and so that's how they were sort of first used. Was it developed from card games into stories? So they're beautiful, and the nice thing is, they've developed and developed over years. I think the only problem has been is that they weren't very well known. It was something that was used for gypsies or fortune telling. It was a bit woo-woo. It was witches, it was gypsies. It wasn't open to everybody. And I do feel that nowadays, and I do feel that nowadays, I felt there's been a real surge of movement with tarots and oracles, and I feel that it's because people are really looking for answers elsewhere, and especially with the pandemic, we're looking for more deeper reasons into things and for more meaning. So I feel that they've really come out the closet. And it helps with all the social media. I mean, nowadays, if you're on Instagram or wherever or Facebook, they're just popping at you. They sort of find you.
So your deck is called Journey to Enlightenment Tarot. And I'm curious, first of all, what inspired you to create a new deck? Why do we need a new deck? And maybe you can touch on your definition or understanding of enlightenment.
Well, the reason I suppose that when I was growing up, I had some really, difficult issues in my life that I was going through, and I couldn't find any answers. And going back then, there wasn't Facebook, there wasn't Instagram, where you could meet up with other people that were like-minded people. And there wasn't counselling or people to help you. I mean, you just got on with life. And so I didn't know where to go. And I was actually working with a hypnotist, and we were doing past life regressions because there wasn't Google. We were then working with a medium who gave me my first set of cards. And there lie all my answers. Everything I needed to know was there. So when I was able to find how I was feeling, and it sounds silly, but I didn't know why I felt this way, how I was feeling, what to do with my feelings. And so it was very emotional. For me, tarot wasn't about saying, what am I going to do in the future? Am I going to get married and have 3 kids? It was, how do I move through all these emotional issues? How do I find out what's wrong with me? Why I keep, I'd have certain success and then it would all go wrong. And I think, oh my God, this is a pattern. Why am I doing it? And I could find the answers and perhaps look into my shadow self and think, okay, how do I do? Now I know what's wrong. How do I get out of this? And the tarot would give me steps. And so then I would ask, how do I get this promotion? Well, will I get the promotion? But it was then I would phrase it, how do I get that promotion? So I would empower myself and think, okay, well, I have to do that. I have to be confident. I have to get rid of that. I have to, so I would get advice. And so it brought to me a great understanding of how to get over things. When I pulled something that was about anxiety, I would then find an answer of how to deal with that anxiety. So
why a new deck? Why a new interpretation?
Because I felt that I would love, I suppose my mission, my intention is that everybody can get this feeling like, so tarot is like a self-help deck. Mm-hmm. So although I teach tarot and I give tarot readings for everybody, I would love for everybody to pick their own deck up and then look at the card and think, okay, this is what I need to hear today. This is what I need to work with. What's my block? How do I get through that block? And so it's a self-help deck for them. So Daniela Manutis, who's the artist who's done, and it's all beautiful colors. So it's something that you can pick up and you can read the book and think, okay, this is what this means. This is Three of Cups. So the Three of Cups is about perhaps getting out and being social. Have you been hiding away too much? Have, take that step just to smile at a neighbor. So there's different advice with every card. So they're not just predicting a future. And they're bringing you messages from your higher self, from your guides, and awakening your intuition. And they're done with beautiful pictures, and they're very easy to connect to, I find. So you can then use the book as well as what you intuit or what it says to you, the card. And so you get answers into your daily life. And then the more times that you connect and get the right answer or get the right guidance, you then start trusting your intuition more and more. And your cards.
So I'm hearing you say that it was this excitement, not only of guiding people, but supporting them to tune into an intuitive ability that we all have and become self-referencing in their lives. Is that right?
Exactly. I feel that we've come away so much from, we look outside of ourselves for the cure, or we look to buy a new car, we look for a new job, a new boyfriend, a new dress, to replace this feeling, to make us feel better. And this is sort of saying, no, it's the answers. I know it sounds cliche, doesn't it? The answers are all within, but they are. We've just got to find a tool to let us access this information. So for me, this is how I access my information, and I'm lucky enough that I can access for other people. So, for me, my readings aren't about predicting, they're about empowering and about discovering why this is happening and what you can do to be in charge of it.
And what was your process? And I know you mentioned the artist Daniela Forster, who, I mean, the artwork is really interesting. It's intricate. There are cards. I pulled the Knight of Cups the other day. I got sent your deck, and I must say I really enjoy it because it's accessible. It's not too complicated, which wouldn't work for me in the state I'm in these days. But when I look at the picture of the Knight of Cups, like here, I'm going to show it if it reads. Does that read? I mean, it's like a mosaic of everything. I don't even see a knight. I just want to fall into this mosaic. So my question is, and maybe you'll comment on the Knight of Cups as well, but my question is, what was both the collaborative process and your process of interpreting these cards? Because they do have standard meanings.
Tarot they do have standard meanings.
You've given it your twist, and I want to know about that process.
Well, first of all, I started writing Daniela and I came together And I had already started writing a book about tarot because, and that came from just as I was learning, I keep a journal. I would read for people and think, oh, I never thought of the devil like that. I'll write that down. So I just started learning and connecting. And after years of reading, I thought, oh, I'm going to write a book. So I started writing a book. And then Daniel and I came together via Watkins, which was one of those coincidences. That happened, and we started speaking, and I sent her my book, and we just started talking. And Daniela works in such an amazing way, and we just sort of, sometimes it was just WhatsApp messages back and forth. Oh, I've just thought of it. And she would come back with images. And we were in lockdown this time last year when we were finishing the deck. And I remember I went for a walk up the woods with my dog. And as I was walking along, I was struck by this sort of inspiration about something we could do with one of the images of the card. And I recorded the message. So when I got home, I sent it to her, and she messaged back straight away, and she had the picture already. So it's like we just synced in together, you know, so we just had this wonderful understanding. So Daniela looked at the standard deck, you know, so she would have, I don't know, one of the Rider-Waite's decks. She'd look through them, but then she'd read my writing, we'd connect up, and magic happened. Not quite sure how she does such magic.
But this magic, I think we can articulate this, because we can call it magic, or we can call it something, the creative process that everyone can do. And so if we can just name what you were doing, because it sounds to me like you were not coming from your analytical mind going, gee, what's going to work here? You actually were embodying something in a co-creation and allowing information to come through you, if I'm understanding you correctly.
Yeah. I mean, I feel it's funny. I teach also. We do some spirit guide courses and channeled messages, and that's how I feel I've worked with most of the book. Some of it was based, so I would, you know, start writing the sort of like the standard read and this traditional reading and the meaning, and then I would just go off and just write, and Daniela would be doing the same. So it's like we were connected via spirit or by our higher selves. Right. And she would be picking up the same thing. So she'd have a base, like I had the traditional meanings that I had to sort of include and follow, because that's tradition. And she would have the tradition, like the outline of the Knight of Cups or whatever, but then she would interpret the words in color and with the vibration that she felt from the words.
So let's do traditional Knight of Cups, and then what you guys are up to here with this Knight of Cups.
Well, the Knight of Cups is generally somebody that comes in with a message of love for you. So he comes in holding, I'm just seeing what's actually comes out in the book, because I've written a long book as well. But so he comes with a message of love, and I interpret this. So traditionally, it's somebody that's sort of from the water signs, who's quite a young guy who comes in. He's a romantic guy. He either comes into your life or he comes in with a message of love. And so that's sort of the traditional meaning. My meaning for the Knight of Cups is he's almost like gifting you that feeling of love again. So it's not somebody bringing that message of love, it's you recapturing that feeling of love again. So you wake up feeling, you know, when you just look at a flower, it sounds silly, you just look at a flower and think, oh my God, isn't it amazing? You know, so it brings
the frequency of love.
So it's bringing that love back into your life. So you start vibing with the messages of love, and you start feeling like the feeling, because the Knight of Cups is like young love. It's like being in love. But if you think of it as the way I interpret it, it's like bringing that feeling into your life without being in love, you know, just be in love with life itself, or with you as well. So it's allowing yourself and reminding yourself that you don't need other people to make you happy. It is within you, this love, and that's that excitement for
Nice.
life.
So I love that you talked about both the traditional and your way, because now I think our listeners can hear that subtle difference of how you're interpreting. But there was language I read, symbolic codes that were embedded in the images that lead to deep alchemical transformation. I find that quite provocative. Can you comment on that? Because again, what does that mean? Does that mean as I'm breathing this in and being with this card that I'm being impacted? Oh, I just saw the knight. Oh my God, I hadn't even
seen it. There you go. You're being
just
impacted.
saw the knight. Look at it.
See, the thing is it's funny. Now you've seen it, you won't be able to unsee it.
No, but he was completely hidden in the minutia of crazy
Maybe
chaos
that's
there.
because I've given you the interpretation of how I feel. Now you can see him coming in with the cup.
That's so cute.
You know, I think the thing is yes, that's what I believe. I believe we look at these and we're taken in by their symbols, you know, and we receive something through that. I do feel the energy that I've put in, the energy that, you can look at the detail. I mean, the energy that Daniela's put in, that comes off the cards. They're not printed cards, they're not computer images that are just not heartlessly, because that's I don't mean to insult anybody else's way of doing things, but they're not computer generated images. They're painted, and there's so much love and energy gone in them, and all the words. And I think behind my words there's, I don't know, what is it? I have to think how old I am, 20, 30 years experience of that word that's gone in there. And so I feel that that's what transmits from the card. And also maybe it's that placebo effect that comes in, you know, in the book, it's sort of saying to you, it gives you advice so the Knight of Cups sort of says, past experience may have caused you to act differently to how you feel. So once you start thinking, if somebody says that to you, you then perhaps connect to your heart. And as you're looking at the cards, looking at the words, there's healing going on somehow. It's all that magic is working.
I have noticed, though, that you're not offering the reversed, which most tarot decks do. If you pull a card and it's upside down, it has a different meaning. Is there a reason you chose not to do that?
Well, the reason is, and I somewhere in the book it does sort of explain, the way I sort of read isn't so much having a negative, that there's a scope, there's a scale of meaning. So you can have so what I tend to do is read, instead of having reversals, I look for people's blocks. So I've got the Knight of Cups, on top of it the block is the Ten of Pentacles. Now traditionally the Ten of Pentacles is, you know, a family card, family happiness, but it's also materialistic, you know, there's also money there. So you could say, in looking at the scale of this, if you look for the negative, it can be perhaps you're too materialistic and you've been ignoring your family, or you've been so much in love and you've ignored finances. So it depends where it takes you, but it's not necessarily a negative as in reversal, but it's a scale card, and it's sort of advising you to pull it into balance rather than it being a negative, if that makes sense. It's just saying, you know, this is out of balance.
And so is there a helpful state of mind you would advocate when a person's sitting down? Let's talk about the actual ritual of pulling a card and how you get into it. Is there a mindset that would be helpful? And how does it work as you're shuffling? Like, just describe that random process for people who don't work with the Oracle and go, what are you talking about? This is all woo-woo. Where you stop and the card you pull, the correlation between that and the unconscious and the frequency.
Everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Right. So first of all, what I do is always make sure, if I can, this is under ideal circumstances, I have a space that's dedicated to me work working just with my tarots, and I like to cleanse my space with sage or with oils, with incense, just to cleanse all the energy. I then get into my space by grounding myself a little bit, so that's really good, because if you've just been having an argument with your kids, you've been late to school, whatever's gone on, that's left outside, and you ground yourself, because if not, if you've been anxious or agitated, when you're pulling the cards, you may be transmitting that, and they pick up on your anxiety or anger at the moment. So it's important to ground. And then I always do a little bit of an energy protection, and then I just connect to my breath more than anything. I just breathe, let everything go, and get into a nice space. I also have a couple of rituals. I use lavender or sandalwood or some sort of essential oil, and just put it on my hands, because that just makes me feel really connected and relaxed.
Well, embodied too,
yeah.
right? You can't smell something and not get present.
And it also just makes me feel I've cleansed off the world's energy, and it's just me and spirit working. I then tend to I bless my chakra to receive wisdom. I bless my third eye to be able to see, and I bless my throat so I can have the correct words. And then I pick up my deck, which I often as well will cleanse or bless or leave out on the moonlight. You know, I like all the rituals. There's no real need to do them, but I enjoy them, especially if I'm working and doing lots of readings. Then I like to make sure that I'm always start afresh for every reading. But then what I just do, I personally just shuffle. There's lots of other people that do you know, 3 piles of 3, or, you know, different shuffle movements. I don't, maybe because I'm clumsy. I probably go everywhere. But also, I suppose when I've you know, when I'm doing a reading with people, I'm listening to them. So my thing is I'm sort of connecting to their energy. So I'm connecting with my higher self, but I'm also connecting with the client's energy. Into their aura, so I'm then connected with their higher self or with their aura, and then we're mixing energy, we're locking energy. And then as we're doing this, a lot of the time I would just pick a card, and sometimes it's funny, you don't even have to. Your intention is, or the intention I always approach a reading is to give the clear answers, to give the answers that the person needs. Sometimes this doesn't work out because the reader wants to know, well, is my man coming back? And I'm like, well, I really feel that it's not very good if he does come back. You know, he's dumped you 3 times, cheated on you. It's really not the best thing. They may not want to hear that. And I have had somebody get angry with me saying, oh, if I wanted counselling, I would have gone to a counsellor. I wanted a yes or a no. And I'm like, yes, he is coming back. But so my intention when I shuffle is that I'm going to give the answer that the person needs. So I sometimes feel that sometimes words aren't really, questions sometimes don't need to be verbalized. I'm just going to give what's needed. However, when I do shuffle, I shuffle with the intention of, if they've just wanted to know, is my boyfriend coming back? You know, I would shuffle with this intention and see what's coming out. And look what came out. Actually, look, it's the 5 of Swords, which is usually the answer that's right. You know, it's time to walk away. But and so I just shuffle like that, and I just feel that it's the easiest way to do. You know, it's just I try to keep tarot simple when I'm teaching it. I just try and keep it very simple.
Would you agree that for skeptics that the only way you're going to actually get into it is because you start getting amazed by the coincidence constantly, yes, where you start to go, maybe this isn't a coincidence, because I don't know any other logical explanation for people who want logic. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think everybody that's come to me, and I've had skeptics come in, and there's always something that you sounds terrible. It's something you find either in the past, you say,
Mhm.
okay, well, this past experience that you've had, you know, within your family or within your past relationship is now affecting you now, and this is what's causing problems in the relationship you're in now. And then they'll think, okay, how did she know that? But so yeah, it's a difficult thing to prove. I think it's like, you know, if you don't believe something, if you're so cut off, then I sort of won't try to waste too much time trying to persuade people, you know. And I just feel, you know, if you don't believe it, just play with it and see, you know. And then you pick a card in the morning and you see what comes up, or you see what happens, and then yeah, you'll start believing in the coincidences and the magic that's happening around us. But yeah, sometimes I just think that you can give people so much proof and they'll still turn a blind eye.
Right.
Well, I wanted to share an interesting story about that, if I may, because Tasha, you were talking earlier about, you know, some people think just woo-woo or believing it. We had it was Christmas a couple of years ago, community home in Vancouver. We had an Airbnb guest who became friends with one of our homemates when he moved to Vancouver. He was a young Asian man, and he was at our home for Christmas. And we had a whole bunch of tarot cards always out on the oracle cards, always out on our coffee table. And he was kind of asking, like, what are these?
Mm-hmm.
And so I explained it to him, and he's kind of like, you know, and he's a young man. And I said, you know, pulled out a card, shuffled it, pick a card. He picked awareness.
Oh, wow.
So then I got another deck, pulled another card. He pulled awareness. He
Awareness.
pulled awareness 3 times in a row
How
from
lovely.
3 different decks. And he
Brilliant.
just, the look on his face was just, you know, you can't orchestrate that in any way. It happens. But it was so interesting to see how he became a believer instantaneously. And the card, spirit, energy did that, you know. But it was interesting to see his skepticism. You know, so for those who don't, you know, necessarily believe, I always say experiment with them, use them, see what they say to you, because it's pretty amazing the messages that come out of the cards, in my experience anyways. But I just wanted to share that story because I thought
No,
it was
it's great.
That's lovely. And
And-
it's so great when people come along it and you think, well, this is just why you came along. And this is why it's so wonderful nowadays that they are in lots of magazines. I saw an article, wasn't in the Financial Times, it was like in the Guardian, which is like usually quite a business paper. And so, you know, it's out there now. People in all walks of life are talking about tarot and oracle, and you know, it's lovely. It's becoming a little bit more sociably acceptable.
So let's get into, because I know you work with what you call spirit guides.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just curious about that, because it's, how do I want to phrase this? Do you think spirit guides are, when you get a story about them and your understanding of whatever you call them, whatever narrative, do you think that's real, or do you think that's part of how our brain is wired, is to make meaning, to make it accessible, and so we come up with these interpretations, and that really it's our higher self, the information coming through?
A little bit of both, and sometimes it's difficult, I think, to decipher who the messages come in from, or what source the messages come in from. So it's difficult to answer really, but I feel that we're just given the message that we need to heal. Right. And so sometimes I feel it will come from the person's guide, because they need the signs, or they need to hear that message, and it's coming from us because we've not been listening to us, if that makes sense.
Coming from our higher self.
Coming from our higher self, because
so,
you know,
but you
we're
do
not
believe
listening.
that these energies are separate from us?
Yes, I believe that we've got like I'm going to say our higher self, which is connected to ourselves. Always, it's within ourselves. We've got our higher self, and then we have our spirit guides. We have a spirit guide team, I believe. You know, we have our master guide, we have our psychic guide, our healer guide, and the guides come in. I believe that there's a guide guide that's with you through life, or that's with the main guide, but then there's others that come in. And I believe that they're around you. I feel that these guides are sort of there. And when you need them, or when you actually open up to them and ask for their help, because what I feel it is that you'll be walking along and your spirit guides will be showing you messages. You know, there'll be a sign saying, don't go there. And you'll totally ignore it. And then your guides will say, don't go there. But all they can do is guide you. I believe once you start making that intention to connect to your guides, then they start guiding a little bit more. So when you ignore that sign that says don't go down this side and you carry on, they'll then put the sign in front of you so you can't ignore it. So you invite them into your lives, and then they start working with you more and more.
See, and I guess I asked the question because I feel incredibly tuned in to my intuition and to information. I'd use the word download, where I'm not trying to get an answer. It appears, I drop it into my cauldron, it percolates, and all of a sudden I wake up and boom, there's the answer.
That's it.
Like the dots connected. So I know it's coming from that connection to a frequency.
Yeah.
I know that in my bones. But when it comes to creating a narrative, and I'd love to say, oh, I have a spirit guide and this is his name or her name. And I don't know. I just feel I've got a great imagination. I could make it up. But
you can do. But I feel that once you know, so when you ask to start connecting to your guide, it's really great to get into a space where you're grounded, where you're relaxed, and then you sort of do a meditation with the intention that you're going to go and meet your spirit guide. So
many a time, and each time it's different. It's a trip. It's a shamanic trip. It's a trip. It's not. I love the information and I love the connection, but it feels like an aspect of me. It doesn't feel separate at all.
Maybe that's because we're all different. We all pick up things differently. I mean, and it's very difficult. I think it's different if it's mediumship energy, then you're connecting to a past loved one. They've got evidence and different energy. But when it is your higher self and your spirit guides, I feel it's unless you have a really strong relationship. The lady I do the course with, Dawn Smith, she has such a relationship with her guide that she gets all the downloads of all his life story as well. You know, she's got so much information. I don't. I get the energy feeling that I know that my psychic guide stepped in, or I do healing and I know my healer guides come in and I feel different energy. And I know it's not me, so I know it's an outside source of energy, but it's very difficult to say. And sometimes, like in class today, we were doing automatic writing. And I mean, as I say, most of this book, or the actual book, the other book as well, I started off writing and then I felt something come in, and I've gone back when we went editing my book. I thought, oh my God, did I write that? And so I do feel that it's very subtle, the difference between your higher self, your spirit, and your spirit guides. And then, as you say, it's quite difficult when your imagination comes in and you know, but I just do feel I feel with persevering with that connection, that you build up a stronger and stronger connection with your spirit guide. And then instead of having 10 different ones coming in, you know, you will then start recognizing, oh my God, yeah, that's the energy that came in before. That's the energy that came in before. And then you would start saying, well, show me something from yourself. Show me a calling card. Give me a name. Give me something.
But see, that's what I'm saying. That's very human to me. And so again, I don't doubt the information, but this need to make meaning or to understand it, I don't have it. I don't need to understand it. I know
that's good.
It's helpful and I'm grateful and I'm in a state of receiving. But I don't have this, like when I hear people with their stories, oh yes, it's whatever from the planet, and honestly, and I'm not a skeptic, but I listen to that and I go, really? Like I'm not attracted to it because I don't know how you'd know that. Whereas the information is helpful because it's so solid.
It's that message that you need.
It's the message,
yeah. And I must have, to me, I always feel that it's lovely if you have a strong relationship with your guide, and then again it's very personal, because I don't feel I can look at you and say, oh, you've got this guide or that guide. It's your personal thing. I can't see that. I can't, maybe some people can, but I couldn't look, because again, it's different. If I connect with my cards, I can pick up certain information. If I connect with a past loved one, I can pick up information. But your spirit guides, am I going off in my imagination? Because I'll have Pocahontas coming through.
Exactly.
So I would find it really hard, but it's not my skill set. So I don't know that one. But I always feel, because somebody says, oh, which guide works with you, that? And I said, I don't know. I just know that the information's coming, and I just want it to keep coming. I just trust it. I just know that it's right. And, I don't give it too much thought sometimes, especially when you're working and the information's just coming. Sometimes I feel like my readings, I did a reading, and it was just like, and you've got to do this, and you've got to do this, and you've got to do this. It was like being lectured. And I said at the end of it, I'm really sorry. I felt like I've just been like your mum saying, oh, you shouldn't be doing this. You've got to be doing that. You've got to drink more water, whatever it was that was coming up. Right. And I said, really sorry. Now, I don't know where that information was coming from, really. Was it just my psychic guide? Was it her higher self? But the information was what she needed. And and it just comes out so fast that you don't even question it. You don't really stop and ask.
Well, that's the beauty of it, because as soon as you do question it, it would stop coming. The second you wonder if it's accurate,
think about it
just stops, because it's conscious mind.
When I start thinking, what did you just say? You can't say that.
Yeah. Well, how about we pull some cards? Can we do that?
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, sure.
I was thinking again about the world. I think everyone's so impacted right now with the pandemic, with vaccines. I've got people all, on both sides, and so many things in the frequency right now are chaotic. So how about we start with COVID? And as you're shuffling, just think maybe the forecast for this endless wave, and not so much, we can talk about what it's for. We've talked about that before, where this pandemic has actually served, as we were talking about earlier, to stop some of the distractions that were being used from people going in deeper. But in terms of the forecast, I think people want to know, when can I get more freedom back in my life?
Right, so I'm just going to ask, what's coming up? What's coming up with this COVID situation, and what advice comes in? What advice comes in? Okay, right. Well, what I'm shown, as I do feel that this situation is going to go on for quite a while, and I almost feel like I'm getting shown we've got to pace ourselves for this. We've got to pace ourselves, and that means that we have to really start looking after ourselves. So there is this element that there's not the rat race element I'm shown is to be taken out. And what it is that we have to start looking after our spiritual energy. So we have to balance ourselves more. We have to start looking at what our needs are, following our rhythms rather than the rhythms of everybody else. And this is something that's going to be really important for us, to rest when we're weary, because this is and maybe that is because when you're less weary, your immune that's right, you disappeared. So when you're weary, your immune system is better. When you're well rested. This is actually the Four of Swords. So for me, this is sort of saying the forecast, I don't feel it's going to be over really quickly. I feel the best way for us to get through is this information I think is coming in, is that we have to rest when we're weary. But I also feel that these thoughts that we've been carrying around are trapping us. He feels like he's trapped in bed. And so I feel that with the stars coming in and the diamonds, it's almost saying we can't heal ourselves. Yes, we're trapped by this situation in certain certain places. And the swords come in to show those heavy thoughts. But this is also saying you can go beyond this by focusing on the hope and the healing. And I feel that this is like the passion for life, or the higher self, you know, connecting to your higher self. So I feel it's also comes in with the Emperor, and I feel that this is almost saying that, yeah, we will get through this, you know, but we've also got to fight and be strong, have those boundaries in. So it's almost like feeling that we know ourselves so well that we stand strong within our energy and we have boundaries. And I feel that this is also, because this has gone on for a year or so now, you know, it's gone on. So for me, this is also saying it's like clear out all the bad vibes that there has been, and start looking at this virus in a different way, you know, get rid of the heavy thoughts, clear it out, and then take control of what you can. And that comes back to, if you can't control your situation, control the way you look at it. That's the sort of feeling I feel coming in with the Emperor. And you know, so I feel that's what it's saying. It's not going to be over quick. I hate saying things. It's not going to be over quickly, you know, so we have to pace ourselves and change the way we're looking at things, so we're not allowing these thoughts to trap us and to make us feel bad, because he actually looks at peace there, you know. So it's almost like saying, you know, if we can get into this higher state of peace where we're really looking after our energy, we're looking after ourselves, we'll feel better. And as I feel that if we look after our energy, we're also, our immune system's better. You know, if we're very stressed, worried, listening to all the bad news, whether, you know, there's so much going on. I mean, it's quite scary to go into some of the, you know, because there's so many conspiracy theories, there's so many good theories, there's so much, you're just like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. And I feel this is sort of saying, well, the best thing to do is find that inner peace and focus on the healing and the hope, you know. So I feel that that's the best way through. I love it.
Is there a specific spiritual practice or exercise that would be helpful in terms of our evolution at this time, something that would accelerate personal evolution? Because people do seem to have a little bit more time than we did before. You know, even if you are working, well, maybe not if you're super exhausted and you're an essential worker, you probably are working more. But for people who are finding those pockets, those windows, is there something specific that they could be doing a practice?
I feel so, you know, just as I've asked the question, I've got exactly the same card. So a little bit of the same answer. It's looking up, because when you said the people that are working really hard, I thought, well, it's probably them that need it more than anybody, because I do feel, for self-care, this comes in when it's the energetic self-care. So it's watching, I feel, the Six of Cups has come in. Now, this is a beautiful card, because for me, within this question, I feel like a spiritual practice is perhaps going back to how you were as a child, or, you know, to capture that childlike energy. Kids don't really worry about tomorrow. They just think about what they've got in front of them. Or I'm idolizing kids, but you know what I mean.
They're in the moment, for sure.
Yeah, they're in the moment. They're thinking about what makes them happy, because they're quite, you know, usually it's just like, oh, I want more of this, I want more that makes me happy. And also they know how to have fun. You know, they'll take off their shoes and run around, you know, being grounded, or they go and play, and they'll go and do things that makes them happy. And I feel that's one of the things that it's so terrifying, the news and people's experiences and all the stuff that's going on. And I think one of the biggest, perhaps, spiritual self-cares you can do is allowing yourself to be childlike again, and do things that are fun. Go and walk barefooted, you know, go and run on the beach, whatever it is that you did when you were a kid, and that way it brings back, it revitalizes you.
I love it.
And and this, the rebirth card. And so I do feel that right now, especially this coming up, as you've asked this question with the full moon that we're in now, you know, which is very much related to the Scorpio of the death card. It's like that renewing. It's like allowing us to get up every day knowing it's a new day, because so often you wake up and think, oh my God, that happened yesterday and it's so bad and it's so depressing and it's going to be a really terrible day again today. But it's not. I think having this child, you know, with these cards coming in, it's the best thing you can do is wake up in the morning and set the intentions. It's a new day, it's a blank page, it's going to be positive, and write some fun into your life.
Now, what about, because I really feel for, you mentioned children, and so I'm thinking of the kids. I mean, it could be millennials, it could be Gen X, Gen Z, whatever, but there are people with, you know, a huge future in front of them who are really worried and anxious. And I'm seeing it in a lot of age groups where they have to make a living and create a family, like people are still at that beginning stage of the world. And now the world has changed so much. I wonder if you could pull a card to offer some hope or forecast what they've got and what could strengthen them moving forward into their future.
No, sorry, I've gone ahead. I've just got that question before you even finished it. I'm sorry. That this is the King of Wands. So as soon as you started saying what advice comes in, so I've got the King of Wands crossed with the Seven of Pentacles and the Wheel of Fortune. So I feel what comes in is that they, no matter what's going on in the world, they are in charge of their future. Yes, we have to know that the world is changing, but this is all saying that you are the master. You can start living and making the universe and your future as you want to live it. You can create the future that you want. Yes, they may have to change, because we've got the Seven of Pentacles saying it's time to reassess. And I think that's, yes, we do have to reassess the way we're doing, and especially with financial things, but especially I think a lot of us were brought up in this great boom where everybody would just have jobs and buy and that's changed, but it doesn't mean to say that it's a bad change in some ways, you know, because a lot of people became too perhaps greedy. So I feel this is saying, yeah, there is this time where we have to start assessing, but then you can get back on to what you want to manifest, but it doesn't have to be what you thought you were supposed to manifest. What you now need to manifest is perhaps your happiness and what you're passionate about, because there's lots of people have lost jobs or changed their lives. They're digging in to say, well, what does make me happy? I want to write, I want to be a writer. We do that. And then because the shadow card is the Wheel of Fortune, I mean, this is, I feel, just saying, well, we're now in this, the wheels are turning, we can't change that, you know, so all we can do is change the way we look at life, you know, so it's being very adaptable, but knowing also that the universe has our back, you know. And I know that's a really easy thing to say, but when disasters and so much trauma has struck so many people, it's difficult, but then we're sort of just to trust this journey of life sometimes. And know that if things aren't very good now, something different's coming in. You know, the wheels always turning. The wheels always turning.
Lovely. So I know we only have a few more minutes. I want to make sure that they've got your website so they can find out more about the readings you offer, the training you offer. Where do they find you? Where do the listeners find you?
It's Selena Joy Lovett. So it's SELENA Joy and Lovett, LOVETT. So they can find me. I'm on sort of Facebook and Instagram, and if not on my website.
And I did notice, I went on your website and you were offering a little reading with your birth number, but I had a question about that, because usually when you do numerology, you always take it down to a singular number. Mm-hmm. I ended up with a 10, which was the Wheel of Fortune, but I thought I was always a 1, my birth number. So how does that work with your interpretation if people go on your website and go, oh, I can get a little free reading here, which is really cool. But just can you explain that?
Did you download the birth chart that came with it? Did I send it to you? Because you fill it in and then I think it takes you to a page where you can download all the answers.
Oh, I didn't get a whole lot of answers. I just got, when I added up my birth date, it all came up to a singular, it would be a 1, but it was a 10. which would
Okay,
be the
but
fortune.
there's probably something on it because I do my website. That's you talk about what COVID's taught us all. It's taught us all to be technical wizards that it doesn't work out, because what you're supposed to get is actually a whole sheet of all the different interpretations. So your numerology in tarot will add up to all the cards, all the major arcana cards, and so we all relate to one major arcana. So I think with my numbers, I add up to number 4. So I think I'm the.
So is it singular always? You always go to so a 10 would be a 1?
Yes.
Okay, so how do you get to 10 to those cards and the higher numbers?
Sorry, I just heard someone knocking at my door. So you take your numbers. So you've got so like for my birthday, I've got the 29th of the 6th, 1969, and I add the 2 and the 9 up to make 11. Then I add the 6, which brings us to 17. Then I add up the 1 and the 9, the 6 and the 9. And then I add all the numbers up and take it down. So if it adds up to, if it's 14, it will go to number 5.
Right, that's the normal numerology piece. But
And
you're
then
offering in your interpretation numbers that are 10 and 11 and 12. So I'm trying to understand how come there are double-digit numbers in the interpretation.
Because they'll relate to then one of the so like we go up to the 21 card, so you may come up to with the devil. So so that you could make your numerology to come out to one of the major arcana cards.
Oh well,
Okay.
I'm gonna drop it. I still don't get it.
I'll send you it.
All right, send it to me. That'll be great. So we've given them your website. Do you have any events coming up that you want our listeners to know about?
Yeah, I'm starting a new tarot course in mid-June, which is a 10-week tarot course. It's about 2 hours, well, it's about 20 hours long, but it always seems to last a little bit longer, where we go in depth to use tarot for yourself as a self-help tool, but also to read for others. I also do a spirit guide course with Dawn Smith, and that's starting up again in June. And we're also doing some live mediumship demonstrations. We've got one coming up on the 26th of June, and that's for charity. So there's 6 mediums, there's 6 of us all together, and we're doing the mediumship event for a church. We're raising money for a spiritual church in the UK. And we're also doing a card reading event, which is for all card readers. So anybody that's watching, they may be interested. What we're doing is we're called the Creative Earth Project, and we offer readings. So readers come to us to volunteer their time to do 1 reading, 2 readings, 10 readings, whatever they want to. And the money raised all goes to one charity. This month's charity, or this charity is for Heads to Minds, which is a mental health charity. And so the readers volunteer their time. We advertise and get people that want readings, which is £15. I think that's about $19 or.
Oh, is it? Isn't it almost double? I always double. And then I think
it
I'm
might
getting
be. All I know is it's about 15 UK pounds.
Yeah.
And then they're given a reading, and all the money goes to charity.
Is that all on your website? They can find out more?
Yes, they can do. If not, just it should all be on my website.
Okay. And we're also going to post both this interview and all this information we've just been talking about on consciouslivingradio.org. And then it's going to go to the YouTube channel. It's been a pleasure, Selena. Really fun. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, it's been lovely. I've really enjoyed myself. Okay.
And 15 pounds is about $26 Canadian.
Okay, right.
Which is a great deal, especially for charity. Love it.
Yeah, it is. It's really worth it. So, and we're planning to do these events every couple of months, either mediumship for charity. They're also doing healing for charity. So we're trying to set up so there's always something running for charity somewhere and some workshops. So yeah, should be good.
Thanks, Selena. We've been speaking with Selena Joy Lovett about the Journey to Enlightenment Tarot, which is also available, I believe, on her website. Thanks, everybody, for joining.